Am I the butthole for refusing to tell my husband the gender of our baby after he skipped going to the doctor appointment with me? My husband and I are expecting. This is our first baby and we're excited. Thing is, he barely attends any doctor appointments with me and his excuses aren't even valid. He's willing to miss the doctor appointment over soccer or a drink or board game with friends. His response is always, "I'm not the one carrying the baby, why do I have to go see the doctor with you?" Last week was my final straw. He was supposed to come with me for the baby's gender reveal appointment, but he chose to not come last minute because his friend invited him to fish and chips meal. I was pretty livid but didn't make a fuss about it. Mom went with me instead. He texted asking me to tell him the results, boy or girl, but I refused to tell him. He kept spam calling me but I hung up each time. He came home fuming, demanding I tell him the results, but I refused and bluntly told him, since he refused to attend the appointment then he gets no results. Today I learned after the baby's born and said I was willing to die on this hill. He went off calling me spiteful and immature for doing this and punishing him. He said he's the father and has the right to know. He then called me dramatic since I wasn't alone and mom was with me. I said he gets no results, period. He's been fuming about it and told his family, and they're now pressuring me to stop playing mind games with him and tell him, but I declined. Am I the butthole? Edit/update. Hi, so, first of all, wow. I did not expect this to blow up. Sorry, can't answer any comments because of feeling overwhelmed. I just wanted to mention that my husband just attempted to contact my doctor to get the results. It didn't go well and we had another argument over it. He couldn't get it since his mom was the one who made the call. Not the butthole. Already a deadbeat dad before the baby is even born. If he's telling you I'm not carrying the baby, why do I have to go to the doctor with you? That's going to turn into I didn't push out that baby, why should I look after it? Real quick. Edit. Not the butthole. Not the butthole. My ex pulled this with our second child, and I caved and told him. I shouldn't have. You need to seriously reconsider this relationship. He's showing you that he and his friends are more important than you and the baby. He sees going to appointments with you as punishment, not as a chance to make sure you and the baby are healthy. Don't be like me and stay until he leaves you for another woman. Not the butthole. Absentee father already. Kid is never going to be a priority for daddy. Am I the butthole for laughing at my niece's gift? My 12-year-old niece is really into arts and crafts, and recently got into crocheting. Before Christmas, she told me that she had a surprise gift for me, and seemed really excited about it. I told her I was really looking forward to it as well, and prepared her gift myself, which was actually art supplies. On Christmas, when we had our family gathering, she brought me her gift, and was super excited for me to open it. When I opened it, I saw a crocheted animal, but if I'm being honest, it looked really bad. To give you an idea of what it looked like, imagine something from r/bad taxidermy but in crochet form. I couldn't help but burst out laughing, and I couldn't stop laughing no matter how hard I tried to suppress it, so I had to excuse myself to go to the washroom, where I locked myself for nearly 10 minutes. When I came out, my niece was in tears with her parents trying to console her, and I apologized profusely and told her that I really liked her gift, but she kept crying and shouted at me, calling me a liar and that she sucked at art. My niece avoided me for the vast majority of the party after that. I tried to make her feel better by displaying her gift on my living room cabinet, but my wife pulled me aside later in the day and told me to take it down after the party because it was, in her words, really ugly and made her uncomfortable. Surprisingly, all the adults was very understanding of my situation, but I feel really bad because I feel like I destroyed my niece's confidence, and I'm not sure how I can make it up to her. You're the butthole. She's 12 and she worked really hard on something. Man, it breaks my heart just to think about her getting laughed at. Poor kiddo. Edit. OP, if you see this, I bet there are a ton of us who would love to buy one your niece's crocheted creations if you can get her to start making them again, and help her with an Etsy shop. I'll buy the first one. Edit 2, really wasn't expecting this to be the top comment. And a lot of people have rightfully suggested that maybe the next best step isn't the niece selling her creations on the internet. Point taken. But I'd still totally buy one of these crocheted animals, so hopefully someday I can. You're the butthole, she's a child and you made fun of her work. Furthermore, you laughed for 10 minutes, what is wrong with you? You're the butthole. Laughing at a gift somebody was looking forward to giving you is just mean. You've likely permanently damaged your niece's self-image with your inappropriate reaction. Am I the butthole for telling my ex-wife I don't care if she and her family starve, that I am just responsible for our sons? I have 2 sons ages 16 and 14 with my ex-wife. Our marriage reached a bitter end when I learned she had remained married to me for over 3 years so I would support her through returning to school so she could switch careers to an even better paying one, despite her old one paying as much as mine. For years I tried like hell to save our marriage because I felt it fracture. She played along until she got what she wanted and then she was honest that she had never wanted to save our marriage and had been over me for years. When we divorced, custody was set to 50-50 our boys and she was ordered to pay child support to me because she was making so much more after her change of career and education. She remarried a year after our divorce and had more children. After the birth of her last child 4 years ago, things got bad. Her husband was diagnosed with cancer, then one of her kids got diagnosed with a long-term medical condition, then COVID impacted her job. Our boys would tell me how rough things were at their moms and how they wanted to live more with me, so I went to court and the judge moved her down to every other weekend and changed the child support order to reflect her decrease in custody. Recently she had to move into a smaller house because of how badly they were struggling and then she came to me for help after the courts refused to end the child support payments. She told me I needed to help her and that I should be helping to take care of my boy's family, and that's what she and her family are. I told her she used me for 3 freaking years so she could survive off my money. She did not get to ask me for more, to support a family that is not my own. She called me a selfish butthole. Told me her family is living off charity and they could be so much better off if I would help them. I asked her why I was supposed to care. She told me she wished she had cheated while we were together and that using me for money wasn't enough. Again she told me about her family and how they would starve. I told her I didn't care if they did or not. That none of them are my problem and I only care about my kids. She called me an butthole. Her husband sent me a text that night saying I was a cruel butthole and he hoped the boys would hate me when they realize I want their whole family to suffer. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole, but make sure you have a high-level conversation with your boys so that they're prepared for your ex and her husband to try to paint you as the root of all evil when they go over there. Not the butthole. Is she actually destitute? It doesn't sound like she is. She moved into a smaller house. That's still a house. It's not a shelter, not even an apartment. Are they on food stamps? I'm getting the sense she's having a hard time adjusting to a life on a more modest income, but not that she's totally broke. You also know she has a history of manipulating money out of you. I'd leave this up the courts. If she was really broke, wouldn't the court lower her child support payments? Am I the butthole for teaching my autistic daughter a harsh lesson? I have an autistic 14-year-old who has terrible hygiene. I have to fight with her to get her to shower, brush her teeth, and clean up after herself during her period. It is disgusting. Blood everywhere and the constant washing of underwear. She sees no problem with her inability to clean herself up. I told her that people are going to bully her in school if she smells bad and that it is hard to recover from that socially, and she ignored me. Well, she had her period last week. I picked her clothing and allowed her to wear white pants. I wanted to see if she would clean up after herself so that the pants would be clean when she came back home. Before I even dropped her off, the pants were red. I stayed silent. I dropped her off like normal. She needed to learn how these type of situations will impact her social life if she continues to live like a slob. She came home in tears. The kids were ruthless. She was mocked for her strong smell and the red on her pants. It hurt me to see her like this, but I was not seeing the changes that had to be made. For the rest of the week she took good care of herself. There were no stains, she showered herself, and would spray perfume to maintain a flowery scent. My husband and I fought about this though. He called me some very hurtful words because of my choice. He said I handled it poorly and that she will be paying for this for the rest of the school year. I see it as a life lesson. And it actually yields results, unlike my husband's soft approach. So am I the butthole for the way I taught my daughter a lesson? You're the butthole. Greater than before I even dropped her off, the pants were red. I stayed silent. You allowed her to be humiliated by her peers at school. Actually, hang on. Greater than I picked her clothing and allowed her to wear white pants. So you actually picked her clothing? You did not simply fail to point out the risk from her clothing color choice, you actively chose white pants, you caused her to be humiliated. You failed as a parent. We never set our kids up for failure, we never intentionally throw them to the wolves. We are here to help, to teach, to love, to guide, and to set them up for success. It is well known that autistic girls face added challenges to menstruation. Clearly you need to address this core issue. It is likely time to explore different products. Please consider period panties as part of the solution set. And, please educate her and empower her to try a variety of options and settle on what she feels best with. Am I the butthole for thinking my Mo should spend the day before my wedding with me? I'm new to Reddit. My FPL suggested I post here. My 33 female, fiancé, 29 male, are getting married in August. We happen to share the same birthday, and our wedding is the day after. My Mo, B, 25F, also has the same birthday as us. So for the day before the wedding, I had suggested to Bex that she join us, mine and fiancé's family, for lunch and then help me to prepare for my wedding day. I also asked that she share a hotel room with me the night before, so she can be there for me the moment I wake up, to support and calm me. She agreed to stay in the hotel with me but was a bit vague about agreeing to lunch, as she said she didn't know if she would have plans. This was a few weeks ago. Skip to today and Bex's husband, Lee, messages me to say that he's organized a romantic day out for Bex's birthday, ending with a concert. He told me that it was going to be a surprise for her, so he was letting me know in advance so that I could plan for her absence the day before the wedding. I will admit that I became sharp with Lee. I told him it was inconsiderate of him to book something for Bex the day before my wedding when he knew she had responsibilities. Lee told me I was a crazy bridezilla if I thought I was going to make Bex do slave labor on her birthday. Bex is really good at organizing, and she loves to help. I don't think she'd see it that way. Lee did say that if Bex still wanted to come back to my hotel room after the concert that he wouldn't stop her, but that I absolutely cannot have her during the day. I went to one of my bridesmaids, Val, female, 29, and she agreed with Lee that I obviously have to let Bex go off and enjoy her birthday. I told Val I was annoyed that Lee hadn't even asked me if I could spare Bex, he had just told me she wasn't going to be available. I also told her that Lee hadn't even offered me his concert ticket, so that Bex, my Mo and I could have a fun evening together the day before my wedding. She told someone what I said and now I'm getting hateful messages from my other bridesmaid and friends saying I can't behave that way. All I want is to spend the day before my wedding with my Mo. Am I really the butthole? TLDR, I want to spend the day before my wedding with my Mo but my Mo's husband wants to take her out for her birthday. Am I the butthole? I'll add that I don't know if Bex knows yet. She's organized so much for me, so I think that she would help me if I asked her. Edit, for everyone asking why I'm relying on Bex so much, it's because my fiancé hasn't been much help during THR whole process so I obviously need someone to lean on and talk to about my vision for the day. Edit 2, I can't afford a wedding planner. Whoa, wow. Wow. Huge, you're the butthole. Seems to me like you've been taking advantage of a kind friend. Let your Mo enjoy her birthday. She'll be there with you at the wedding. Also, you're a bridezilla. You're the butthole, bridezilla. Your Mo does actually have a life of her own, she is not your emotional support animal. I told him it was inconsiderate of him to book something for Bex the day before my wedding when he knew she had responsibilities. What responsibilities does she have the day before your wedding? Going to your birthday lunch isn't a Mo responsibility. Lee hadn't even offered me his concert ticket, so that Bex, my Mo and I could have a fun evening together the day before my wedding. This is a joke, right? You are being over the top and you really need to take a step back. You're the butthole bridezilla. You're the butthole. You realize you're the only person who really cares that you're getting married, right? Am I the butthole for not cutting the salt from the dinners I cook for me and my boyfriend? My boyfriend, 33 male, and I, 29 female, have been living together for the last 1.5 years, together for 2.5. A few months ago, my boyfriend had his blood pressure measured and it came back ever so slightly high. He's a very healthy weight for his height, tall, thin, but muscly from work as a diesel mechanic, but high blood pressure is no joke so he decided to try to clean up his diet a little. I do 90% of the cooking at home, by choice, he does dishes and vacuums so this isn't an issue, and I genuinely cook on the healthier side. I'm only 5 feet 3 inches and slim and athletic so I focus a lot on healthy proteins, so we eat a lot of proteins and veggies and I like to play around with different sauces and things to make it interesting. I feel like the meals I make set a strong foundation for an overall healthy lifestyle. My boyfriend loves my cooking and always brags to his friends about the things we eat. Suddenly, my boyfriend decided he doesn't want to eat salt in the things we eat at home, at all. I can't work with that. We've never used salt excessively in our diet so asking me to cut a healthy amount of salt from our meals just seems ridiculous. I do too much cardio and strength training and don't want to end up with a sodium deficiency because my boyfriend suddenly decided we can't have salt in breakfast or dinner, meals we eat together. I brought that up to me and he suggested salting my food separately, which, fine, but we all know it doesn't taste the same, or cooking our food in separate pots, or for me to supplement in other ways, like Gatorade. This is where the issue comes in. I would be perfectly happy to make these accommodations if I felt like it would actually help, but he's constantly snacking on high sodium snacks, like chips and pretzels and frozen egg rolls, and I just feel like it's unfair to ask me to change how I salt our food before working to cut out some of his unhealthy eating choices. He's gotten to the point where he feels like he's disrespected if I cook for both of us and use salt, and he'll refuse to eat or do the dishes if I tell him I've salted the food. I think he's being a baby and refused to stop salting our food. We're at an impasse. So, am I the butthole? TLDR, my boyfriend has slightly high blood pressure and asked me to stop salting our food, but I refuse. Am I the butthole? Edit for info. To clarify, my question is mostly, am I the butthole for refusing to make 100% of the changes to address his issue when he refuses to make literally any changes outside of the 2 meals I cook us? I feel like the salt content in our food is not going to be the change he needs to reduce his sodium content. Also, when I say he snacks, I'm talking frequent snacks around 6 to 8 times a day. Not the butthole if he still eats salty snacks. I was on the fence until I got to that part. No way. Not the butthole. The high sodium snacks are the issue, not your cooking. When I was a kid, my dad developed high cholesterol and was told to cut out red meat. So the whole family cut out what little red meat we were eating. Lo and behold, we discover that dad is just eating red meat for lunch at work instead. So that was the end of the whole family making a change, because why should we when he won't help himself? The fact that he keeps consuming lots of salt outside of meals makes you not the butthole. If he wants salt-free dinner, he's salt-free to cook for himself. Make him cook his own dinners. He's eating salty snacks and jerking about your cooking, he can take care of himself. When he cuts out the salty snacks, you'll resume cooking with compromise. Ope. Not the butthole. Am I the butthole for having a tent full of toys and books in the living room when my nieces and nephews aren't allowed to use it? My husband and I have 4 kids, Allie 17, Andrew 15, Charlotte 12, and Lucas 9, and we've been fostering Emily, 6, for almost a year. Emily has special needs. She gets overwhelmed easily, and when she gets overwhelmed she hides. Emily is also very small and a master at getting herself into tight spaces, under the couch, inside a kitchen cabinet, inside a dollhouse, etc., so when she hides it can take forever to find her. She'll also lock the door of the room that she's hiding and then hide to make it that much harder to get to her. We bought her a tent shortly after she moved in with us. We let her pick out everything in the tent from the mat on the floor to the toys and books inside, and we got her to go to her tent whenever she gets overwhelmed or feels like she has to hide. Nobody is allowed in that tent without Emily's permission. We have the tent in a corner in the living room. It's one of the few places where she can't lock a door and we can see her in the tent from most places in the house. My family hosted Christmas this year. Before everyone came over, we told Emily to put away whatever toys she didn't want anyone playing with. She put some of her toys in her tent and some in her room and insisted on locking the door. When everyone got here, Emily hid in her tent and started to play with her toys. We explained to the kids that the tent is Emily's special place and that they are not allowed to go inside or use any of the toys inside. The kids were upset, but we had a couple toys for them, plus Lucas was willing to share his toys. My siblings approached me multiple times on Christmas and asked why I put something so tempting as a tent full of toys in front of their kids then say they're not allowed to use it. I explained that the tent prevents Emily from endangering herself and that it has to be there because it's one of the few places where we can see it from most places in the house. When we got Emily out of the tent, some kids tried to go inside and I told them they're not allowed in there even when Emily isn't in the tent. I closed it up and put duct tape on the zipper to prevent the kids from opening it. Some siblings left right after we ate because of the tent and some stayed but berated me in private for taunting their kids with the tent. My parents agree with my siblings that it was rude and want to host future holidays so Emily won't have the tent. Was I the butthole for keeping the tent in plain sight when there were kids that would want to use it? Not the butthole. Kids can hear the word no without dying. It's a scientific fact. Not the butthole. As an autistic adult with an autistic child and as someone with knowledge of elopement behaviors, I cannot applaud you and thank you enough for creating a reliable, safe space for Emily. What your family does not understand is that Emily trusts you and that trust is fragile. You have given Emily a way to feel safe, and actually be safe, when she's overwhelmed. Moving the safe space that belongs to her would have likely damaged her relationship with that space and with you. Allowing others to be in the space would have eroded its status as sanctuary. I know a lot of people will not understand this, but I do. What you did is significant for that child. I'm so glad she has you. Am I the butthole for not inviting my stepmother to my wedding? I, 32 female, am getting married to my fiancé, 38 male, this year. My parents separated when I was 14 years old. My dad left my mom for his secretary, I'll call her Anna, after my mum was in an accident that left her badly visibly scarred, leaving her to raise my two sisters, both 25, twins, and me alone. This completely devastated my mum, and she was depressed for a long time. She's okay now, but she's never completely recovered. I'm the oldest child by a long stretch, and I was basically left to raise my sisters and look after my mum for a lot of my teenage years. I was very, very angry for a long time, and I refused to see my dad until I was in my mid-20s. Both my younger sisters were slightly too young to grasp what had happened and continued to visit him, on weekends only. They bonded a lot better with Anna than I did, and in many ways, she was like a mum to them. She introduced them to a lot of female things, like makeup and fashion, because my mum's scarring meant she didn't feel comfortable with that kind of thing. I started speaking to my dad again about 7 years ago, and we now have an okay relationship. I understand a lot better at this age that love isn't easy, and you can't help who you fall for. I'm also on reasonable terms with his wife, who has tried extremely hard to bond with me since I was a teenager. My mum has never fully recovered from what happened and never found anyone else. She can just about stand being in the same room as my dad without crying nowadays, but she absolutely cannot see his wife. She's not cruel or dramatic about this, she just politely declines invitations to events if she knows Anna will be present. For previous events, like graduations, Anna has always declined the invite, saying she doesn't want to put my mum in an uncomfortable position, and pushed my dad to go alone. However, with my wedding, things haven't exactly gone like that. I tried to be as nice as I could about it, and I invited Anna out for a meal and told her that I was sorry, but that it was more important to me to have my mum at my wedding than her, so I was going to have to ask her not to come to the wedding. Anna said that she understood, that she expected it, and that I needed to do what was best for my mum. My dad, on the other hand, became extremely angry at me when he heard. He called me up and essentially said if she's not coming, then he's not. Both my sisters have found out about this, and they're extremely upset with me, too, and are also threatening not to come. I'm not sure if I'm the asshole here? Update, thanks all, your comments have made me see sense. I'm going to take my dad up on his offer not to come and let my sisters know they're welcome not to either. My mum's my best friend. She's been there for me my entire life, even through her own misery. If no one else comes, but she's there, I'll be happy. Update 2, called my dad. Tried to appease/diffuse the situation by apologizing. Tried to explain that I understand his point of view, and that I respect his relationship, but that I can't ask Mum to go through that, and that it would spoil the day for me knowing the pain she'd be going through. Asked him if he'd consider doing something just the 4 of us, him, Anna, me, fiancé, or maybe the 6 of us with my sisters. A nice dinner somewhere, paid for by my fiancé and I, so we can celebrate our union together. He hung up the phone. So there you go, voila, my dad. I mean, it's your wedding so you can do what you want. As an aside, I always am baffled about giving the cheater the grace of forgiveness, but not the mistress. What they both did was super crafty, but your dad is the one who chose to abandon your mom, not your stepmom. Edit, I'm not saying the side piece is without blame, but the cheater/abandoner is the main villain. In this instance I'd never speak to either one of them again. Again though, your wedding. Not the butthole. This is a tough one. Your father abandoned all of you, and it was you and your mother who bore the brunt of the consequences of his actions. Suddenly having to raise 3 girls on her own must have been scary and stressful for your mom, and you had to take on that stress as well, caring for your sisters and helping your mom through all of that difficulty. Meanwhile, your father got to go and start a brand new life with his secretary and got to be the fun weekend dad to your younger sisters when it was convenient for him. I see comments on here telling you that you and your mother need to get over the past, but the fact that you both still carry a lot of that weight from the past with you shows how heavy it all truly was for you. Honestly, you don't owe your father a thing. You have been graceful with both he and his wife, and for them to demand that you place their attendance at your wedding above your mother's is out of line. It's your wedding. If you don't want people there that stir up difficult and painful emotions for you and your mother, then you have every right to not invite them. You have not been unkind to either of them and you've handled this in a very gentle and civil way. You are not obligated to accommodate them any more than you already have. Not the butthole. Your mom 100% deserves to be in your wedding, your father doesn't. Your father did an extremely horrible thing, something I would never forgive if we're in your shoes. He's the worst, eh? It seems like your sisters still don't have an idea of how despicable your father's action was and how that affected your mom. I honestly cannot fathom how they don't seem to understand this, and they should first and foremost support your mom. But they can end up being as. You're not the butthole at all. Don't let them guilt trip you if it ever comes to that. And keep giving your best to your amazing mom. Everybody saying Anna sounds fine seems to have forgotten that she was carrying on with a married man. WTF. Not the butthole. Am I the butthole for replacing my daughter and not including her as a part of my new family? The butthole and names changed for privacy. I have 4 daughters, Charlie 25 and Amy 21, and my stepdaughters Claudia, 15, and Rose, 17. I had a son Isaac who was Charlie's twin. He passed away from leukemia when he was 19. When he was diagnosed at 14, there was a lot of medical bills to pay for Isaac's treatment, and I ended up working a lot to pay for his hospital bills. During that time my ex-wife Brenda slept with Jake behind my back. I found out about the affair and we had a divorce when the twins were 15 and Amy 11. All of them knew the full story of what happened and my ex and I had 50-50 custody. Charlie visited Brenda till she was 16, after which she stopped. We told Amy what happened when she was 14. But the thing is, Jake is quite wealthy and Amy preferred it there more because she got spoiled. She eventually chose to stay with Brenda when she turned 16. During this period I met Lucy. I fell in love with her and got married when the twins were 19. Isaac passed away a few months after. Lucy herself had 2 daughters, Claudia and Rose, and they were both welcomed into the family. My son passed away a few months later. When Amy moved with her mom permanently, she cut off all ties with us. She didn't leave peacefully too. She insulted everyone in the family and left. One of the things she yelled was, "I don't want to be a part of this crafty family." She went no contact with us too. On November, Jake and Brenda were charged with fraud, and apparently they were also in debt. They lost their homes and were thrown in jail. Since none of the other relatives were able to take her in, Amy came to us. I didn't want to take her in, but Lucy convinced me to let her stay for a bit till she gets back on her feet. Well, ever since she left there have been a lot of changes to the house. And Amy has been complaining about them since she arrived. She complains about how she can't touch the snacks and how she has to pay for her own snacks and clothes. We feed her 3 meals a day plus afternoon snacks. How she was given the smallest guest bedroom and how the other girls got big personalized bedrooms. How on Christmas the girls got amazing gifts and she only got a gift card. The last straw for her was NY's. We took the girls to a big party while she stayed at home. When we got back she started yelling at me how I'm a horrible father and how I replaced her with Claudia and Rose. I told her that she's the one who renounced the family and so she wasn't allowed in family things. But a lot of people are telling me that I'm essentially replacing her for something she did when she was a young, impulsive teen. So Reddit, am I the butthole? Edit, I would like to add everyone including her has been in therapy before she left and after she came back. Nothing has come out of it. Amy has also made it clear she wants no relationship with me and is here because she's desperate. And by made it clear she told it to my face. Edit, sad situation all around. Not the butthole since she made it clear she wants nothing to do with you but still expects you to treat her like your daughter. It's kind of fricked of her. Sorry, but I'm not getting all these oodas. The prodigal daughter isn't there because she wants to be, she's there because she has nowhere else to go. The 16-year-old made a bad decision but the 21-year-old is full of attitude. Not the butthole. If I'm reading this right, Amy wrote y'all off at 16, and now 5 years later at 21 yo has lost everything and is moving back because she has nowhere else to go? And you have been treating her as less than ever since? Info, are y'all charging her rent? Does she have a job? What is the long-term goal? It sounds like she isn't quite a family member, but not quite a tenant either? She just exists in a home where she has to buy her own snacks? Not the butthole, she said 5 years to get over the teenage impulsive decision. Am I the butthole for walking out of my friend's wedding? I was invited to be a part of my friend's wedding. Our culture doesn't have the usual bridesmaid/groomsmen thing, but close friends of the bride and groom usually help out. The bride, Alicia, and I go way back. We have been friends since high school, and have been through a lot together. However, my relationship with her hasn't always been the best, as she was essentially a mean girl in school and treated me terribly. We both were part of a group of 6, and they all made me the scapegoat for all their mean jokes, comments and amusement. I was trolled for being tall and chubby. They would treat me and talk to me like I was a guy, and it seriously hurt my self-esteem for a long time. However, the reason I put up with it back then was because I didn't have any other choice and they were always there when I needed help, which made it easier to brush off their behavior. I have been low contact with them for a while now, and haven't seen any of them in person for at least a year. This has helped me gain some confidence. I've lost weight and feel more comfortable wearing short clothes. Alicia contacted me a while ago to ask me to be in her wedding. I hesitated at first, but she insisted and expressed how important it was to her that I be there. So I agreed, and we all met up. In the first few minutes of meeting up, Alicia expressed how shocked she was at how much I'd changed. She said she'd seen my pictures on social media, but assumed that I'd photoshopped them like I used to in school to look slim. 2 other friends nodded their approval, and said they thought the same thing. Then Alicia says that she's surprised that I actually look like a girl. This kind of hurt, but I calmly replied telling her that I am a girl. She just laughed and said that I'd always be a boy to her because no matter how much weight I lost, she'd still be more petite due to the height difference. As if this wasn't enough, she turned towards one of the guys from our group and asked him for his opinion on this. He chuckled and said that she's still the small and cute one. I somehow swallowed this all down, and tried to proceed further by changing the topic, but Alicia would not let me. She kept passing comments on my gender identity, body type and style of dressing. I finally snapped when she told me that she expected me to wear a suit to her wedding instead of a dress. There is no way I was doing that, and I made that clear, but she was adamant, saying that it was her wedding and she wanted me to adhere to her vision. She said she liked that I was different in school and wore men's clothing, and my new style really threw her off, so she just wanted to fondly remember the old days by having me dress up like a boy. I could not believe how mean and ridiculous she was being, so I told her to count me out and promptly walked out. Since then, the entire group has contacted me to tell me that I'm being unnecessarily stubborn and hurting Alicia. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole. What the hell? These friends are not your friends. Block them wherever you can and leave them in the dust. You're better off finding people who actually have respect for you. Also, good on you for making a positive change in life, unlike these dirtbags. Not the butthole. It seems like your friend wanted her ego boost, aka you, to be there for well boosting her already huge ego. You did the right thing. Those people, especially Bridezilla, suck. Am I the butthole for telling my mom I won't change my name and I don't care if she wants me to? I'm 19 years old and my name is Gracie. It's on my birth certificate. Have used it my whole life. My name was chosen by my dad. Mom named my older sister and younger brother. It was a coin flip on my sister's name as the oldest and they alternated choosing the name for each after that. So mom named my sister, then dad named me, mom named my younger brother and then dad named my youngest brother. They didn't agree on names so that was their compromise. My mother always had a particular dislike for Gracie because I never told people to call me Grace, I was always Gracie, I use the full name for everything. Mom assumed with time both my youngest brother and I would want names more like our older siblings. For context, our names are Beatrice, Gracie, Richard, and Nico. In the last few months mom has mentioned my name and has suggested I change it to Grace, so I can have something more formal and sophisticated and less of a nickname. I told her I'd never use Grace and I like being Gracie. She kept bringing it up and saying how my life would be easier as Grace. I put my foot down over Christmas and told her I won't change my name and I don't care if she wants me to. That I am happy with my name and I do not care if people think it's childish or if she does. She got so mad. Dad told her to back off and that she should be willing to abide by their compromise since she got her way with 2 names. Mom said I should be less rude about talking to her and that I should care that she hates my name. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole with extra WTF. It's your name. It's not about what your mom wants and it isn't about your parents' compromise either. It's about, and only about, your sense of personal identity and how you want to be known. Stand firm. Not the butthole your name, your choice. Quite frankly, I also think your dad's choice in names is much better than your mom's. And the formality of a name really does absolutely nothing and people do not care. Your mom needs to stop obsessing and being so rude. Am I the butthole for making my home more clock accessible even if it upsets my partner? Okay, so I've always had issues with time and clocks and they make me really upset to the point that I don't do anything apart from fixate on them and what time it is. I've developed ways of dealing with it over the years and avoid having a clock visible on my computer, etc., and hourglasses to help with tasks. I'm very fortunate to have an artistic career with few necessary clock-related appointments, and the people I work with are very understanding, but it's very difficult to live your life without knowing the time and it's been very difficult working out how to cope as I get very tempted. My partner, who I've been with for many years now, has always been fairly understanding, although I can't say ever really truly appreciated the magnitude of what it was I dealt with. The big issue has arisen because I wanted to try for the new year a new way of dealing with my issues and to remove clocks entirely from my home so that I won't get sucked into a time spiral. The idea is that I will expand my use of the hourglass system and live my life completely by the sands and natural daylight cycles. I'm aware that to most this will sound bizarre and unorthodox, but this is something I've dealt with and have lost so many days of my life to, and I'm lucky enough to be able to attempt this outside of formal medical appointments, etc. My partner is really upset that I am in her mind taking over the whole home and forcing this onto her, but I can't see how this is such a big problem, as she will still have her phone and her computer, and the difference it is going to make to my life not being tempted to look at the time is hopefully going to be huge. Am I wrong here, and is what I'm asking a far bigger deal than I expected? She's not taken her clock down yet and says that I'm in butthole for needing her too. Edit. A lot of people are saying that I should go and seek professional help. I have dealt with this issue for a long time in my life and have spoken to people who have helped with my anxiety, but not with this issue. It's very difficult to access specialist support here, and I have had to come up with my own systems with hourglasses, planning around sunrise, etc. And I know that this is unorthodox, and I am very lucky to be able to cope this way, but it helps me a lot and has changed my life. This is why I want to expand and make my home a safer place. I appreciate people trying to help, but gently want to remind people that my post isn't about whether I can seek support, and it's about whether I have underestimated the importance of clocks to people, and if I am being unreasonable to want a visible time in my home tracked by only sand and daylight hours. You're the butthole. If you think she should just be able to live with her phone and a computer and whatever else, well, then you should be able to just live with that as well. Even if it does sound like you need some professional help. The fact of the matter is that most people do need to know what time it is, and having visibly present reminders is helpful. You're in a relationship, in a shared space, so it shouldn't just be whatever you say goes. This is something you need to work through together. You're the butthole. OCD. You have OCD. I know Reddit hates armchair diagnoses, and I usually hate them too, but I have OCD and you've just perfectly described it. Look, controlling other people always makes these things worse. You have to get specialized therapy, like ERP, to help you work on the core issue, rather than attempting to manage the symptoms with an increasingly complex web of workarounds. Trust me, I speak from experience, the web collapses every single time. I promise getting help feels much better than where you're at now. Good luck. Yes, you're the butthole. Pick the cliché that will resonate most with you. It's their space too. It's a 2 yeses/1 no situation. It's not their job to manage your temptations. Go apologize for assuming your comfort is more important than theirs, and work with them to find a solution that you both are happy with. Am I the butthole for refusing to make our sweet diet culture free for the new year and suggesting my roommate switch rooms? I'm in my sophomore year of college and live in a 4-person suite, 2 people per room with a bathroom and living room. I share a room with Liv, and then in the other room are Mads and Chris. Liv told us that she wanted us to be a diet-free zone because she doesn't want to be inundated with diet messagings for New Year's. OFC, I don't mind avoiding the subject around her, but she wanted to stop us from doing stuff like meal prep or counting calories. BC, it's all diet culture. I have a food scale. BC, I'm crap at portion sizes and she wanted me to put it up. I gained some weight over the last semester due to laziness and snacking, and I need to get myself back into shape, and I don't want to feel like I'm doing something wrong trying to love myself and my body. Mads is with me, so the 2 of us decided to propose that we just have Liv switch rooms. Liv got really upset and said that she was really hurt that I would choose diet culture over living with her. I said that I don't want to hurt her, but that me getting back into shape is important, and that I also think having me and Mads supporting each other will make it easier for us to stay on track. Chris was in support of just changing rooms, and that she's okay with keeping it all out of the communal spaces. Liv made a really big deal and has been excessively posting on TikTok and Insta stuff like your fat friends don't need to hear about how you're afraid of looking like them and all that. Which, I'm kind of offended that she's trying to make my thoughts/feelings about my body somehow about her. She doesn't usually show narcissistic tendencies, but it's really weird to me. BC, it's like when people are like, oh, you think you're fat? Well, what does that make me then? And it's like, chill, sis, none of us were talking about you? Anyway, Mads posted on here once about some family drama, so she said I should see what y'all think. Not the butthole. She can't dictate how you take care of yourself. She can get the frick over it. Not the butthole. You have every right to eat the way you want and she has no right to control you. She definitely has some self-image issues going on that she is projecting onto you. Not the butthole. When people are happy in their own skin, they don't feel the need to be so overbearing. Am I the butthole for taking a nepotism baby joke too personally? At our family night get-together, the topic of nepotism came up. I'm assuming it's something on the top of some people's minds as a result of the New York Magazine cover. I, 27 male, had seen some buzz about it online, but I can't say I had given it much thought myself, The number of celebrities I care about is a small one, and there's a good chance I don't know anything about their family tree. Because of lack of interest, I didn't participate in the initial conversation. The topic was brought up by my brother-in-law's wife, and I listened for a while before turning to a conversation with my husband. After a few minutes, my brother-in-law's wife said something along the lines of, "I want to know OP's thoughts on this since he's a nepo baby." It was said somewhat jokingly, but I was still confused, so I asked her to explain. She said that since I work for my dad and was basically handed a job when I graduated college, that I was technically a nepotism baby. I replied saying it was a little ridiculous to group me in with actors and models making millions on their parents' name when my husband and I were just regular people working to support ourselves and each other. She said it was beyond just regular people working to support themselves when I made $1 in a year. I thought the whole thing was wildly inappropriate to be discussing in front of all these people, and I told her so. She said it was just a joke and I was overreacting. The atmosphere was obviously a little tense following that, and she all but forced my brother-in-law out the door before the night was even over. There were mixed feelings after she left, of people saying I took the joke too personally and people saying she went too far. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole, she was out of line. However, she was correct. Your situation is definitely nepotism. It doesn't just apply to celebrities. Everybody sucks here. Your brother-in-law wife made a tasteless comment, and she made herself the butthole by pushing the conversation even more when you were against the comment and took offense to it. The conversation became very inappropriate once you showed how uncomfortable you were. On the other hand, you are failing to see that you are a nepotism baby. Your family started a business and you got to experience an easier time getting your first job out of college because of it. It is very possible that you did a lot of hard work to get yourself that job, and it is also possible that someone else just as qualified for the same job got passed over because your family owns the company. You did nothing wrong by taking the job, and your family have not done anything wrong by giving you the job. But you should recognize that you were lucky to receive a privilege in life that most people don't get to have. Am I the butthole for kicking my fiancé out while I breastfed our baby and making his mother tell him off? My fiancé and I ended our engagement early on in my pregnancy, but we got back together a week before our baby was born. Our daughter is 3 weeks old, and I don't like breastfeeding in front of people as I'm self-conscious, but I used to let my fiancé stay in the same room. A few days ago, though, I kicked him out and banned him from being in the same room as me while I fed our daughter because he made a comment about how my boobs were a lot bigger now. I don't think he said it to be nasty, and he did say it was just an observation, but it made me feel insecure since I haven't been naked in front of anybody, even him, since my body has changed, so I got upset with him, hence the ban. I told his parents what happened after they assumed I was making him leave the room because I wanted him to keep them company while I fed our daughter. His mother was very angry at him and she told him off. Now, he's upset with me and keeps insisting I'm making a big deal out of nothing because it was a compliment since he likes my boobs. Am I the butthole? Not the butthole, you are recovering from giving birth. Your hormones are still very much different than they will be. I hope you can feel better about your body, dear. It is kind of a process after childbirth. I am happy your BF's mom seems to understand. You are 3 weeks postpartum. All the hormones your body has used for the baby till birth have to go somewhere. There is nothing wrong with how you are feeling and wanting some privacy. Not the butthole, his comment about your boobs isn't a big deal, nor is you banning him from the room over it. What makes him the butthole in my opinion is him calling your feelings nothing. Not the butthole. I would say no buttholes here, but it slides into him being the butthole because he won't leave you alone about it. You set a boundary and he needs to respect that. You are only 3 weeks postpartum, your hormones are still raging and your body has undergone a lot of changes. You're allowed to feel however you like. Am I the butthole for refusing to take in a foster child? My husband, 44 male, and I, 43 female, have 2 kids. Both left for college and one is in law school now. So we are empty nesters. I love it, I get to go wherever, whenever. Right now I'm skiing a lot and we take lots of vacations. I'm planning on retiring in a few years. We invested smartly and now our home is paid off and my kids are getting a full ride in school. We can retire without much worry, although we will still work until the economy is better and our bodies allow us to. Problem is my husband is now bored and wants to foster a child. I am absolutely against the idea. My cousin did foster a child for 3 years. She is infertile and decided she wanted to foster as a way to have a child in her life. But that child was a complete nightmare and almost made her and her husband divorce over it because it caused so many issues. I know not all foster children are like that, but my cousin is far more compassionate, she is a nurse, than me, and she was crying to me and my sister every day about it, and I don't want to do it. It's hard to tell what a child has gone through, and it's usually nothing good if they need to be fostered. I don't have the energy to deal with it anymore. I raised my son and daughter, and unless they need me, I'm going to finish my last years at work and then retire and enjoy my quiet years. My husband constantly badgers me to reconsider, and I've told him I'm not going to. He argues it will be like having a child again, and I told him I don't want that. I told him to find a volunteer position at a school or go down to the children's wing of his hospital. He is a doctor, if he wants to spend time with children. He also works outside the home while I have a hybrid job, 3 days in the office, 2 days at home, so I feel like any foster child will just become my responsibility. But he's constantly complaining that I'm not being compassionate and we could change a child's life for the better. But I know it will probably change my life for the worse. Still, am I the butthole for refusing to sign up to be a foster? Not the butthole. Also, was your husband a fun dad who basically got to be the cool guy while you did all the work actually raising the kids? Because children are work, and only a dad who only ever babysat could act like having the responsibility to care for a child again 20 years later would be no big deal and a fun adventure. Your husband needs to look into the Big Brother program. He can interact one-on-one with a fatherless child doing activities. Both of you can have your needs met. Your lifestyle won't be impacted. And he can help change a child's life. ETA, no buttholes here.